right, everyone, get ready, because today we're diving deep into something we all do every day, but probably don't think too much about: communication.
Interesting.
We've got research papers and even some real-life stories about how communication can go so wrong, it's almost funny, or maybe just painful.
Right. You think talking to each other would be easy, but
Exactly. So we're going to uncover why communication is actually the foundation for pretty much everything we do as humans, and how getting better at it can, well, make your life better.
the sources we looked at, they really stress how essential communication is.
Not just in it like it's nice to be understood way.
Right. More like it's the basis for how we build relationships, how we succeed at work, even how safe we are in emergencies.
It's true. Like just this morning, my partner and I, well, we had this miscommunication about who was picking up groceries.
Oh, no.
And we ended with 2 gallons of milk but no bread.
Classic.
It's silly, but it proves the point, right? Communication, or lack of it, shapes our lives in very real ways.
It really does. And especially when it comes to relationships. The source material dives deep into how communication builds trust, how we express emotions and work through conflicts.
So, like, arguing better.
Well, more like arguing productively. One study found that couples who use I statements when they disagree,
Instead of you always.
right, they're more likely to actually solve the problem, express feelings without blaming each other.
Interesting. I gotta say, sometimes I struggle with truly listening.
Listening.
Yeah. Any tips from the research on how to be a better listener?
Absolutely. There's this idea of active listening. It's more than just hearing the words. It's engaging fully with what the other person is saying.
Not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Exactly. The research breaks it down into 3 things. Paraphrasing what you heard to make sure you got it right, asking clarifying questions to dig deeper, and reflecting the speaker's emotions. Shows you're really with them.
So it's less about getting your point across, more about truly getting their point.
And that leads to real understanding, yeah. And not just in our personal lives. The research shows strong communication skills are essential for success professionally.
For leadership, for teamwork, for everything, really.
Pretty much. Setting clear goals, motivating people, resolving those conflicts constructively.
One source even had this great story about a business deal that was about to fall apart because of, well, terrible communication between the companies.
Oh, I think I read that
It
one.
was fascinating. The CEOs finally had this honest talk, clarified what they each expected, and saved the deal. Both sides benefited in the end.
That's a perfect example of how communication isn't just about avoiding mistakes, it's about actively creating success.
Exactly. It's powerful stuff.
You mentioned storytelling earlier, and that's something the research highlights too. Using stories, whether it's a business presentation or just chatting with friends, makes your message more engaging. People love stories.
It makes sense. You're not just throwing facts at someone, you're drawing them in, letting them experience the idea.
Precisely. And that brings us to the digital age. How does all this apply to communicating online? With emails, texts, social media, it's not just face-to-face anymore.
Right, it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
But we can talk to anyone, anywhere, instantly. It's incredible.
Yeah, but this ease of connection also brings new challenges.
Like what?
Well, the sources talk about information overload and how easy it is to misinterpret things online.
We're bombarded with messages all the time.
Right, and without things like tone of voice and body language, it's easy to get the wrong idea.
So it's like we have all these amazing communication tools.
But we're still figuring out how to use them well.
Exactly.
The research talks about this thing called netiquette, like the etiquette rules for online spaces.
Yep.
Being mindful of your tone.
Not typing in all I keep S.
Right. Respecting other people's opinions, even when you disagree. It's about creating a positive online environment.
It's not just what you say, but how you say it, especially online. We have to be more aware of how our messages might come across.
That's really insightful. And there's another fascinating concept the research dives into, the online disinhibition effect.
What's that?
It's the idea that people tend to be less restrained online. They might use harsher language, make impulsive decisions, and show less empathy.
Because it's easier to hide behind a screen.
In a way, yeah. The anonymity can make us forget we're interacting with real people.
It's almost like we need a whole new set of communication skills specifically for the digital world.
I think you're right. While the core principles of communication stay the same, the online world requires us to adapt, to refine our skills to navigate this new landscape effectively.
So it's not just about mastering the technology, it's about mastering communication in this technological world. And that's where things get really interesting.
Before the break, we were talking about how we need a whole new set of communication skills for the digital world. And I think it's a really important point to, explore further. It's not just about like learning new platforms or tools. It's about really understanding how things change when we go from talking face to face to, online.
Absolutely. The rules of the game are totally different, and we need to adapt our strategies.
Yeah.
One of the challenges the sources highlight is this thing called context collapse online.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It basically means our online audiences are way bigger and more diverse than offline. Like a message you meant for your best friend could be seen by your boss, your grandma, anyone.
Exactly. And that can have all sorts of unintended consequences. A joke that's funny to one group might be offensive to another. The research really emphasizes being super mindful of who might see your message online.
So it's even more important to tailor your message to your audience. No more one size fits all.
Right. And that brings us to another challenge, dealing with conflict online. Disagreements are going to happen, but online, things can escalate so quickly. And it's all out there for everyone to see.
Oh yeah, it's way more public.
The research suggests a few things that can help. First, stay calm. Don't react right away. Take a breath before you hit send.
It's so easy to fire off a response when you're angry.
It is. And another strategy is trying to see things from the other person's perspective, even
Right.
if you totally disagree with them.
Instead of, attacking them personally.
Right. Try to engage with their ideas respectfully.
So it's more about understanding than winning the argument.
Exactly. And sometimes the best thing is to just disengage. If it's getting too heated, walk away and come back later.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. All this talk about online conflict makes me think about emotional intelligence. Knowing how to manage our own emotions and understand others.
I never thought about emotional intelligence online.
It's super important. If we can control our own feelings, we're less likely to say something we regret later. And if we can understand how others are feeling, we can build better relationships and navigate those conflicts better.
It's like you have to read between the lines more.
Yeah, because you don't have the tone of voice and facial expressions to help you. You have to pay attention to the little things, the word choice, even the emojis they use.
Like an emotional detective.
I love that because it's about learning to see emotions in a new way. And that helps us not just resolve conflicts, but build stronger relationships online.
The sources also talk about self-awareness. Like, how do others see us online?
Oh, that's a good one. It's easy to present this perfect version of ourselves online, but being authentic is key.
So finding that balance between being professional, but also real.
Exactly. It can be tough, but it's so important. And, we've talked a lot about the challenges of digital communication, but there are incredible opportunities too.
Yeah, like what?
Well, think about connecting with people, collaborating on projects, even creating social change. Digital platforms give us these amazing tools to build bridges and amplify voices.
So it's not just about avoiding the bad stuff. It's about using it for good.
Precisely. And remember storytelling. Well, the research talks about how digital platforms have given everyone the power to tell their stories to a global audience.
Wow. We're all potential storytellers now.
We are, and that's incredibly powerful. But we also have to be responsible. The research warns us to be careful about what we share online, to respect people's privacy, and to make sure our information is accurate.
Right. It's a huge responsibility.
It is, and that brings up a really fascinating question that the sources ask. In this age of digital storytelling, whose stories are being told and whose stories are being silenced?
That's deep. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about who has access to it and who benefits from the stories that get told.
Exactly. And I think it's an essential conversation to have as we figure out how to navigate this complex digital world.
So we're back. And I'm still thinking about that question, about whose stories are being told online and whose aren't. It feels like we've moved beyond just how to communicate and into the bigger impact it all has.
Yeah, definitely. The sources really emphasize how digital communication can be powerful for social change, especially through storytelling. But we have to be careful, not to just accept everything we see online.
Right, because the loudest voices aren't always the ones that represent everyone. What about the people we don't hear from as much, those marginalized communities? How do we make sure their stories are heard too?
Well, the research offers a few suggestions. One is to actively seek out different perspectives online.
Like, don't just follow the same people all the time.
Exactly. Look for content creators from different backgrounds, cultures, different life experiences. It helps you break out of your own little bubble and see things from different angles.
Makes sense. And there's that media literacy idea too, right?
Oh, that's crucial. It's about learning to really analyze what you see online, question things, look for biases, double check your sources.
Because not everything you read on the internet is true. Shocking, I know.
Right. We have to be smart about the information we consume, especially with all the misinformation out there. And this all ties back to being ethical, like we were talking about before.
Being responsible for what we share,
Mm,
making sure it's accurate and respectful, not spreading harmful stuff.
exactly. It's like we have this incredible power to amplify voices, to fight injustice, to inspire change, but we have to use it wisely.
With great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man said that, right?
He did. And the research suggests one way to use this power well is to, help those marginalized voices be heard.
So not just sharing our own stories, but making space for others to share theirs too.
Exactly. Our stories are all connected, and when we lift up others, we all benefit.
That's a great way to put it. I think that really gets to the heart of why communication matters. It's not just about spitting out information. It's about building connections, understanding each other better, making the world, well, a better place.
I couldn't agree more. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm really struck by how powerful communication is. From our closest relationships to like global events, it's the force that ties us all together.
It really is. This has been an amazing conversation. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. And I hope everyone listening feels inspired to use what they've learned to communicate better, not just for themselves, but for, the good of everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hmm.
So, to all our listeners out there, keep exploring the power of communication. Tell your stories, listen to others, and never underestimate how much impact you can have through your words. Thanks for joining us.